It's a Friday night during the wintertime of 2021 to 2022. I'm 16 years old and I'm in the car with my mom as she's driving me to my black belt training cycle class that night for martial arts. Now on this particular night, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with just life and things that had been going on recently. And so I was sort of ruminating those thoughts over and over again in my mind and saying them out loud. Now during this time, things weren't going so bad. I was getting decent grades in school. By this point, I had narrowed things down to just focusing on the training cycle, since the other sport that I was doing on top of it had ended by that point. I couldn't go back to it at the time. And I was just really focused on getting my black belt because I was almost there. But the thing was, the environment that other sport was 1,000 times better than the one that I was currently doing. So I think even though I didn't really realize it at the time, having that sort of void in my life made this whole process of getting my black belt a lot more difficult. But this training cycle had been pretty difficult, at least for my 16-year-old brain at the time that hadn't had much exposure. The constant humiliation that was pinned on me in front of crowds and crowds of parents. I had a really toxic relationship with one of the instructors there. If you want to learn more about that, you can watch this video right here. And I was going through a big life transition at the time. I did enjoy a lot of the aspects of what I was doing throughout the day. The actual doing of the schoolwork, doing the sports that I did afterward, my performance and that sort of thing. But I just struggled with dealing with people and getting all caught up in my head. And I feel like this training cycle really pushed me to the limits in those regards at the time. If we go back to a little earlier that night, it's just me and my mom. We're eating dinner together. And at this point, the night's going all right. I'm just sort of preparing myself for the night ahead. But that's when I get so stuck up on my thoughts that I start venting. I start venting about how I've had to start a new high school after the lockdown, how it's difficult to make friends there, how, there's a lot of weirdos at the school as well. I start sort of venting about how it's difficult seeing my grandma degressing in the nursing home while this is happening, and I hate what's going on in the training cycle and all that sort of stuff. My mom's trying to reassure me, trying to help me move past this mental hump for myself that night. But I just don't want to go to training cycle whatsoever. I feel like I'm sort of seen as the joke over there. And my number one goal after middle school finished was to not be seen as the joke. And also along with everything else, I just really didn't want to go that night in particular. Fast forward to when I'm riding in my mom's car on the way to class, and that's when my thoughts start to act up again. These thoughts become amplified in my mind because now my anxiety is higher since we're almost there. I sort of just keep talking about how difficult the past year or so has been. I keep talking about how I hate doing this every week. It's really sad to keep seeing my grandma degressing like she is. I hate the whole school situation. I don't like a lot of the people and all that sort of stuff. Eventually my mom gets pretty fed up with it. She starts yelling at me, and that's when my body goes into panic attack mode. I start uncontrollably crying. I was having a lot of bloody noses around this time, up to 2 to 3 a day, so my nose starts bleeding out like crazy. It gets all over my uniform, all over my face. And I remember just looking in the car's mirror and just thinking to myself, how the hell did I get to this point? We're parked right outside the building. I'm supposed to go in there and perform tonight, but clearly I'm far out of the state of mind to do this. My mom goes in, tells the instructor what's going on, and regardless, he still wants me to come in. Mind you, if we missed 1 or 2 classes without a valid excuse, it was over for us. Crazy. She comes in, tells me the news, and I'm just like, how the fuck am I supposed to do this tonight? I'm crying uncontrollably. I'm all covered in blood. I'm a fucking mess. But yet I still have to go in this place. I go in, the instructor hands me a new uniform, says I know what's going on. I had some sympathy there, which was nice, but there I am. I go out on the mat. The instructor basically tells the class I was bloody. That's the reason why I'm late. And we just go from there, done and dusted. I get through class fairly well, believe it or not. Class ends, and that's that. We head home, and on the car ride back, I sort of come to the realization that I'm capable of doing a lot more than I think in any given circumstance. I was at one of the lowest points mentally of my entire life. I had buckets of blood that had come out of my nose, covered all over me. and I still went in because I needed to get that done. I needed to finish what I started. This whole experience taught me the importance of not dwelling on things that are out of your control so much. Staying focused on your grind despite your situation potentially being a little bit shitty, and staying positive as much as you can. Now keep in mind, I was 16, we were just coming out of lockdown. I was doing a lot of stuff, there were a lot of transitions and life changes that were happening for me. And it was a lot to sort of grapple with all at once. But it built me up, it challenged me, it really threw me under the flame. And that sort of kick-started years of just me trying to become the best version of myself that I could in order to not fall victim to my circumstances like that again, and to become as strong and confident in these times as possible for the future. Now keep in mind, I had a lot of confidence and self-esteem issues. I was getting made fun of for my appearance on a regular basis at school, and it just made me feel really insecure about myself. And in that sense, it pushed me in the wrong directions to focus on things like looks maxing, making sure I was the most handsome, making sure I was the most cool or whatever so I could fit in with the other people around me, and that sort of stuff. And it was all a big bunch of baloney, waste of time. So I think my biggest piece of advice here would be to not take after people who are willing to put validation in front of building themselves or doing something that's difficult. You are capable of way more than you think right now, and I'm grateful that I had to go in that day, because I would have never really found that out if I had just been able to stay in the car and go home. And going off this, sort of some lessons I've learned from this myself is that you need to be able to use this negativity, use this negative energy to your advantage. It's okay to vent a little here and there. It's okay to express how you feel to an extent, but eventually you need to use that inner energy and channel it into fuel. Fuel your work, fuel your fire. The consequence of me continuing to ruminate on my thoughts was me continuing to vent out loud, and continuing to vent it to someone caused that person to get really angry and yell at me, which threw my body over the edge, which caused me to have a panic attack. And around this time, I was having up to 2 to 3 bloody noses a day. So as a result of the panic attack, blood spewed out of my nose everywhere. I hope this message helped you today, my friends. As always, keep putting in that work towards becoming at least 1% better each and every day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay grinding.